If I should fall to rise no more, as many comrades did before, then ask the fifes and drums to play over the hills and far away.
Look who I've just found, Professor Tony Pollard.
I am here to be found.
Yeah, I know. How's it going?
Great, we're well down into the chapel site now. We've taken out, we had all of that stone and brick that looked like the remains of demolished walls.
Yeah.
Though obviously a lot of material had been taken away. Well, the last time I saw it, there was brick and stone to be seen, now there isn't.
Yeah.
So it's all piled in the corner like a rockery. What they were looking for underneath was any suggestion for the survival of the foundation trenches that they would dig and then start to put the bases of the walls in. It doesn't look like there is anything. It looks as though whatever was here, and we have no reason to doubt this was a chapel site as shown on the map. They've been through it fairly thoroughly and scoured out what was there, and they've just left a portion of the brick and the rock behind.
I suppose that's the nature of these buildings. Once they fall into disuse, it gets robbed out and reused.
Absolutely, very practical, and we've seen this before in the courtyards of the buildings there. But I think the interesting thing is that the brick that was here is highly weathered, which shows us that it was exposed to the elements for a pretty long time. So it was a pile of rubble. Now, that pile of rubble, if it was lying here in 1815 in amongst the trees, may well have provided a degree of cover for maybe a French soldier coming up from this direction. And the interesting thing is we found a couple of musket balls around. I think one of them came out of the rubble itself and one very close by. And one of them is it's pretty squish, but it certainly looks like an Allied .75. It's a defender's button.
Come from over there.
Defender's button. It's a defender's musket ball. Yeah. And it's got brick dust impacted in it. So it may have been fired at a French soldier, perhaps, taking cover. Because we're right on the edge of the wood, and we can see the hill that they advance down before they begin their advance through the wood, which is fought against throughout. They eventually push the defenders back into the farm.
Now, you set up the Centre for Battlefield Archaeology in Glasgow University. I remember you saying that when you first proposed that, nobody really took you seriously.
It was...
And here you are right now.
Yeah, it was quite amusing, really. I remember one staff meeting when a colleague who will remain nameless, when I mooted the idea that battlefield archaeology would be something we could practically do, and this is decades ago now, and basically turned around and said, Tony's been watching too much TV again. And funnily enough, I started to appear on TV after that, but there you go. But I think there can be no doubt that conflict archaeology, of which battlefield archaeology is a part, has been one of the fastest growing fields within archaeology itself worldwide, and it's been amazing to see it grow, not just in the UK but internationally, and there are loads of conferences now and a lot of projects. But what really marks Waterloo Uncovered out was not just one of the most famous battlefields in the world, but also the opportunity to work with veterans. Right. And that, for me, when I was invited by Mark and Charlie to get involved, was a really strong attraction to this project, and it's proved its worth. We started in 2015, it's now 2023, and here we are. We're still filling in missing pictures of the missing pieces of the picture of the Battle of Waterloo.
And this isn't the only site you've got open, is it?
No, we've got another trench just in this direction, and both of these were based on a geophysical survey that we've done as part of the project. I think it's probably the most extensive geophysical survey of a historic battlefield, and it's shown up loads of Duncan's work has shown up loads of anomalies that could be anything. It's all very well to see them on a map, but you need to dig holes to, it's that dreadful term, ground truth them, to establish what they are. We've looked at some of these in the past. We found brick kilns that were related to the building of these are the genesis of Hougoumont. That's where they made the bricks to build the walls. And these were two of those new anomalies. I put together the project design, and it was clear to all of us that there was a symbol on the map that looked like a little chapel from 1777. There was a chapel standing here. That disappears on the maps from 1815 and 16 and thereafter. So at some point it appears to be demolished. But the geophysics threw up an anomaly that looked like it was that location and the remains thereof, and indeed it was. The thing with these fired bricks is they throw out a very strong magnetic signal because they've been heated, and that's what we got here. So that was great, but over there was a huge anomaly,
right?
And we thought that might be a grave pit. And we've got an ongoing program of research related to the burial of the dead, and in fact the removal of the dead. There's another story there. Ask me about that another day. But we've got that quarry site, which doesn't appear on the contemporary maps. It doesn't appear in any of the accounts. What we wanted to know was, could that quarry site have been here in 1815?
Right.
Now, the interesting thing is that quarry site is related to the digging out of clay that's then used to make the bricks. So we've completed that story. Because when we were digging the kilns were going, where are they getting the clay? Well, it's just over here. But through the archaeology that Dom and Vero have been doing, and Gary's metal detecting, they've come up with an incredible picture where, at the time of the battle, we've still got at least a hollow in the ground, and it looks very much as though the French, as they attack from the south, the farm behind us, are using it as cover, as you would. They're entering the wood, and then they've got this hollow, so they're, hunkering down in it, because in the upper layer of a silt deposit, which may indicate this stuff has washed down from that face, but about a metre below the present ground surface, we've got a very rich layer of artefacts. Right. So we've got musket balls, we've also got pistol balls, which are always, when we're here, indicative of hand-to-hand fighting, because they're only effective at very close range. And you can imagine that in the woods, between the trees. And we, yesterday, found a beautiful French flint from the musket that had its lead sleeve. They used the lead sleeve to actually firm up the connection, because it's almost like in a vice.
Well, so it's effectively a washer, isn't it, lead?
Exactly.
It's soft,
it's really useful. It's also got a date on it. It's got 1811 on it. I was only the Fines guys showed me this earlier. So it's been in circulation for a long time. But the flint itself, and these hit what's called a frisson, which is steel, and they make a spark every time you pull the trigger, and that goes into the pan, and powder burns through, and your musket ball goes whoosh that way. But the thing is, you only get so many shots out of them before they break and fracture and become useless. It may be 10, it may be 15, it may be 25, but at some point you're going to have to change it, and that's what's happened here. The edge of it, the sharp edge, is really battered and bruised, and the soldier has just gone, and we know it's French because of the design of the lead, and also the Allied lead tends to be dark, black or grey, and this is the French flint tends to be yellow. So very indicative. So this is dropped by a French soldier, probably unscrewed it, doesn't have time to be fussy about it, throws it away, rams in, and it's almost like an ammunition change, rams in another one, and then he's off again.
And how in their ammunition packs, how many musket balls did they have?
Well, they're using, funnily enough, we found the liners from some of these. And you would have to talk to one of our reenactors to actually get them. But they've got these leather pouches, and the ammunition they're using is cartridges. So that's a musket ball and powder wrapped up in paper,
right?
Believe it or not, and you just bite the end off and do what you need to do.
Almost the forerunners of the bullet.
Exactly. What we're seeing is, in the decades following Waterloo, there is a huge but very simple revolution in the way that firearms work, with rifling and fast loading. I cut my teeth on the archaeology of the Battle of Culloden from 1746 in Scotland, and there we were finding brown bess musket balls fired by the Redcoats, .75 caliber. The Jacobites were using French muskets, .69 caliber, slightly smaller.
Yeah.
So we could tell the difference. We could tell who fired what. But then when we get to 1815, in the next century, they're still using exactly, pretty much, the same weapons.
Right.
So there's not been much of a shift in weapons technology. Yeah. That comes not long after Waterloo. And we've got rifles here, but they're very, very primitive, slow rate of fire. But it's amazing what a simple ball of lead that's been used in a battle can tell. We can tell whether they've been dropped, unfired, which soldiers might do when they're fumbling in the panic of being in battle. They may have missed a target but been fired, or they may have hit the target. And I saw a pistol ball this morning. The deformation on it, and I only saw it in a photograph. I've got to go and see the original find, but it looks very much like the damage that we incurred on musket shot when we were doing experimental firing into tree trunks. So that may have hit a tree trunk, and then the trees here were removed. The woodland was removed within 2 or 3 years of the battle.
Right.
One reason being that it was blasted to heck.
Yeah.
Not quite the First World War, but still shot and shell. And there's a lovely drawing by a guy called Robert Hills who visited in 1815 after the battle, one of a number of visitors who did artworks or wrote about their experiences. And there's a picture of local people prizing musket balls out of shattered tree trunks so they can sell them as souvenirs to early tourists.
Yeah.
So that's what I love about this battle. It has so many dimensions. And being an archaeologist, the dimension we inhabit is aftermath.
Yeah,
It's we're seeing what's left behind. But what I love about, and this is true of any battlefield really, which is still in the public consciousness today, is that aftermath continues. We are being here, doing this, are part of the aftermath of the Battle of Waterloo, which, when you start to think about it like that, makes it even more interesting than it is.
That's very true. We are part of that story. It's fantastic.
In our own little way.
Yeah. I'm going to go check out that quarry site.
Do that. It's amazing. It really is quite incredible.
I'll see you very soon.
See you later.
Right, come on. It's this way. Right, here's Dom. Dom, how's it going? Is this the quarry trench?
Sorry?
Is this the quarry trench?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. And we are looking for a level where we found all the musket balls, and we try to understand whether or not soldiers have been present here.
Right.
Fightings maybe. We know that at least one French soldier was there because we found a flintlock on Friday, last Friday. But well, a lot of questions still to answer.
And have you got cut lines for the quarry in here? Can you see it in section?
Yeah, in the section where you see the yellow layer,
Yep.
which represents the bottom of the quarry. At the time, it was abandoned.
Right.
But at the time of the battle, it's, let's say, 20 to 30 centimeters more.
Okay. And so this would have formed a depression in the landscape.
Yeah, we are sure of that. And well, as I said, it was used by at least one French soldier to fix his gun to go on fighting.
And is it quite wide? Is it quite?
Yeah, very probably around 2,000 square meters. So we excavate only maybe 15-20% of it.
And out of here, is it clay that's coming out here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why they stopped on the top of the sand, because they didn't need the sand.
And whereabouts were the kilns?
The kilns, we found 2 kilns in 2015. One on that part of the farm, let's say 100 meters from the farm, and another one near the holloway.
Yeah, okay. So the clay coming out of here would have gone to make the bricks, they'd have been dried,
Yeah,
and then they would have been...
absolutely.
Now, obviously, on this project, you've been involved from the very starts. You've wanted archaeologists for this region, but you've got an idea about doing something with the bones.
With the bones,
Yeah.
about the ossuary.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the idea you mentioned. Yeah. Yeah, because we found bones, not a lot, but we found bones in the excavation, as you know, at Mont Saint-Jean. The skeleton I found in 2012. And we have an idea to put all these bones together in an ossuary, to be respectful about the soldiers. But we need also to go back to some of the individuals, to go on with analysis like DNA, etc., because there's a constant progress in that kind of research in anthropology, and that's why we need to be able to go back to some of the bones, and that's the idea of the ossuary, which puts together the respect due to these guys and the need for further researches.
What happens to the other finds that come out?
The other finds, they are bring to England, where they are cleaned, X-rays, analyzed, identified, and then the whole thing come back in Wallonia. And well, the most beautiful one very probably will be
On display, yeah.
it was in this place. In Hougoumont, in Mont-Saint-Jean, there are 3 or 4 museums in the vicinity, and that's the logical place for that kind of finds.
You know what I'm going to go do? I'm going to take these guys. I'm going to go have a look at that gunflint you found. Because that sounds absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I'll see you
You're
soon.
welcome.
Good luck. Bonne chance, we should say. I've spotted someone else I want to have a word with. Mose from the Dutch Army. Hey, Mose, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, really good. Oh, you've been on this project almost from the start, from about 2017?
17 years, yeah.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
there we go, 17, 18, yeah. How are you finding it?
How do you find it here?
Yeah.
Excellent, that's the reason why I keep coming back. I love it.
I suppose, I mean, your role's kind of twofold, isn't it? On the one hand, you're representing the Dutch Army,
Yes.
you're supporting through the logistics, containers, water, etc., tents,
Stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah. And the other is you're a metasectorist.
Yes.
I mean, is that key to battlefield archaeology?
Many archaeologists don't think so, but it's proven here to be key, because if you go for, like, for instance, a battlefield filled with musket balls,
Yeah.
you can't dig a whole field. You have to find and go treasure hunting,
Yeah.
in fact.
And I suppose where you find those musket balls, suddenly you've got a good idea of
If you
where
find
they
them,
ended
it's,
up.
always flag them, bag them, and
Yeah.
they got pinpointed with a GPS.
Yeah.
So in the positions of the pistol balls, of the musket balls, will tell you how the battle went on. Because
Right,
if you
okay.
see French balls going one way, the British balls going the other way, they tell you a story which you can't see while watching the field or while digging it. You have to pinpoint them.
And how hard is it to use the kit? Is there a skill?
There is a amount of skill, and that depends on also on the metal detector itself, because there's many levels of hobby and very professional. But basically, it gives a signal of something in the ground, and the experience and the machine tells you what it is,
Yeah.
how deep it is, and basically you can, if you really go treasure hunting, you can ignore all the iron and stuff like that and
Yeah.
go for the silver and the gold. This being in a battlefield, all objects are important, so we dig everything,
Yeah.
from iron nails to brass and coins and whatever.
And you're setting up a similar veteran program?
Yes, because when I joined this Waterloo Uncovered dig in 2017 as a participant myself, bit as a fact-finding mission if it would work for our veterans as well, and if it would work for the Waterloo Uncovered to have Dutch soldiers involved, which turned out to be working both ways. So we've been involved with Dutch veterans since then, and it is a bit weird because if this obviously works, why we don't have something like that in the Netherlands? And now we've started to have a sister organization called Recovery on the Battlefield, which is hoping going to do the same thing which you are doing here, but then in the Netherlands with Dutch veterans, Dutch archaeology, and probably getting foreigners involved as well. So we'd be your guest and you'd be our guest.
And give it time and that will spread, and hopefully it'll be a brighter future.
Because this morning one of the Ukrainian guys already said we hope something like this in Ukraine, so
Yeah.
maybe we go worldwide.
Right, I must press on. Right guys, let's go this way.
Thank you.
See you in a bit.
Yeah, okay.
Hi Audrey, how's it going?
Good.
Now, these are the finds.
Yes, so some, we've got two parts on this finds
Okay.
table.
Yeah.
Some that have been found the previous years, and some of the finds we found this year.
Okay.
And some of the finds which have been found in the trench, just in Hougoumont, just where the barn used to stand.
So that's
Yes.
Phil's trench.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
yes.
okay. So, first of all, we've been told about a gunflint that was wrapped in lead that was
Yeah.
found in the quarry.
Yes.
Do you have
yes.
that one?
Yes, I do. That's the one. So it's really interesting.
Allowed to touch it?
Yes, you can. Very interesting one, a French one.
Yeah.
You can say that it's a French because of the color of the flint. It's a blonde thing, and he's wrapped into his lead sheath. And this one is particular because we've got a date on it, 1811.
Wow, that's amazing.
So that could suggest that the soldier who was carried a gun maybe unrolled himself in 1811.
Maybe.
Maybe, but who knows? At this time, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Well, I was going to say, were they all so ceremonial? They look. It looks very decorative.
It looks like the French one tends to have this kind of horseshoe shape.
Yeah.
And we have another one found in the previous years, which is very similar.
Right, yeah.
And they always have this kind of decoration. So this one we found this year is interesting because you can see it's quite worked here. So it's been used, but they were carrying a few of them on themselves, and you have to imagine that this is the kind of thing that they were not changing during the battle.
Right.
This is something that they were doing in the evening when they were in the camp. So I was actually thinking maybe they were doing decoration on the lead at this time. Maybe not. I'm not sure. But,
Maybe. Yeah.
No, this is a very nice piece.
A bit like from the First World War, you get trench clubs
Yes.
that are functional, but they're also quite decorative,
Yes.
aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is hailed in the clamp. And
Yes.
strikes the frizzen.
So yes.
And this was the one that was found in the quarry.
Yeah, it's exactly on the same level that Vero and Dom picked, where systematically every time they've been metal detecting, they found also some musket balls. And
and
attesting the French were actually where we know where they should be.
Now, what's that then? That doesn't look
No,
Napoleonic.
The gun is quite big. Anyway. So this one is a Neolithic polished axe.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
found I think by CB at the surface of the area where we have our trench. This one is obviously broken at the base. We have to imagine that it was probably at least twice the length originally. And I've been discussing with Phil, and he says, "Oh, is there a corner there?" And yes, there is. And some of the back in the time, if you can smooth this corner, it would prevent the axe to break easily.
Right. Okay.
Because if you hit the tree in the middle, that's okay. But if you apparently, according to Phil, because he made one himself and he had the same problem, it would break. And looks like it's happened. He hit a tree a bit in the corner, too close, and causing like a torsion or pressure, and it broke.
Right. Okay.
But it's a very nice piece, and it just show how it is on site. Archaeological site, you always find.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does remind you that
But this
it's
one,
not just one day
Yeah,
at
and-
Huguemont. It's many days.
yeah, and this one probably has been ploughing.
Yeah. It is.
Maybe when it's heavy rain, you never know, it can transport a bit.
It is a thing of beauty. So I suppose you're saying slightly longer,
Yeah,
handle down here, wrapped on, and then
Yes.
yeah.
but a very nice piece.
And what's your favourite find?
So that, for this year?
Yeah, or just in general? Do you have one?
You mean that we found only in Waterloo among all the 7,000 objects we've got?
Yeah, 7,000 objects.
Yeah,
Wow.
more than 7,000.
That's a lot of objects.
Yeah, well, my favorite one, it's not because I'm French, but this is the Chaco plate.
Okay.
We found those very fine plaque, and we didn't know what it is until we found out with Sarah the number 1 on it, and it's just a Chaco plate from the 1st regiment who were actually in the wood, not far from the wood, and showing that again the French fighting against the Scots and the Coldstream guys.
Yeah.
So this is my favorite. I have to say, actually, the polished axe is become my second
it's pretty
favorite.
good, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, it is a fantastic array of finds. It does, illuminate what happened on that day, but equally, that is just a reminder that civilization is ongoing.
And also we've got some examples. This one probably Napoleonic, but again, it's difficult to say because this kind of buckle can be used on longer periods.
Is that Bindu's buckle?
Yes.
It is?
I think,
Ah.
yeah.
As I'm getting closer, is that? Oh, look.
There you go.
What's...
Oh, wow. Wow. That's a buckle straight off the battle site. Watch, don't, just hold it in your hand and don't. It's still, you can get the. Brilliant. That's the best find yet.
Yeah.
And this is a Napoleon III coin.
Right.
Perhaps a tourist who came visiting the battle. First World War button, probably English, and Second World War 50 cal bullet, probably shot from an aircraft during the raid in 1945.
I suppose that's one of the problems of this site. There's been so many conflicts that have been here. It's not just Waterloo, albeit the famous one.
Yeah. Well, Waterloo, we tend, I mean, according to the table, we tend to have a lot more.
Yeah. You'd hope. Yeah. Right, I think I'm going to try and find Charlie.
Okay, good luck with that.
Thank you very much. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, see you soon.
Let's go find Charlie. Finishing the tour, there's one last person I want to talk to. Charlie.
Fonzie.
How are you?
Well, thank you, mate.
I remember when this started as just an idea, and now we are what, 7, 8 years in?
Yeah, 8 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a roller coaster. I think when we started, we envisaged it as a one-time only, bring some soldiers here, do some excavation in this hallowed ground, and enjoy the benefits of archaeology, bringing people together, discovering new things, learning about history in a slightly different way. But of course it turned out that people were quite interested in it, and our experience in the first year was that we were sort of blown away actually by the degree to which this experience brings people together, and not just soldiers and veterans, but also bringing together people from different communities, whether it be the international participation, so soldiers and veterans from different countries, but also the students and the volunteers and the archaeologists and the visitors to this site, the people who come through, because one of the wonderful things about archaeology is the public nature of archaeology, because there is no point in doing archaeology if you don't tell people about it. Explain what you found and what you've been doing. So the project has two sides really. One is the discovery of archaeology, learning about the history and what happened here, but the other side is the human side, bringing people together and helping people to forge new friendships, find different communities to the ones perhaps in which they have found themselves unexpectedly.
I mean, it has been the proverbial snowball. As it's rolled along, more and more people have become involved. And the archaeology is almost like, I don't want to say a MacGuffin, but although it's the driver, it's not the only facet to this project.
Well, there are lots of archaeology projects, there are lots of veterans projects. The fun thing about this is we bring the two together. One of the glories of archaeology is that it's multidisciplinary. And by that I mean there is so much that needs doing on an archaeological site, from actually digging a hole to being in the ground doing very delicate work, lifting objects that are incredibly fragile, through to photographing them, recording them, surveying them in, metal detecting, even making the lunch and organising the transport. There is so much that needs doing, which means that everybody plays a part, big or small, and there are very few limitations actually on who can take part. We look at this place in the middle of summer, with the right support and the right people, we can bring wheelchairs in here. We've had people who participate who have no sight. We have people who are physically impaired, people who struggle with various potentially mental health problems. It is a gentle activity, but one that is contemplative, meditative, and it involves teamwork and community and support for one another. So, archaeology has always been that way. And the nice thing is, of course, that archaeologists, as a community, share many of the attitudes and spirits that soldiers demonstrate. That camaraderie, that support, that working together in a common goal. So it's a really good vehicle. And as you say, it's not just about the archaeology, but the archaeology is brilliant.
Yeah. And speaking to veterans over the years, they've often said that some of them didn't necessarily have a family until they went into the military.
Yes.
And sometimes you lose that, especially if you get wrenched out of that environment.
There is something very compelling, and I've always felt this about being a soldier, but there is something enormously important about being a very small part of a very big thing, something that has been around for a long time before you, and something hopefully that will endure long after you've passed through its clutches, if you like. But of course, that tremendous sense of belonging also comes as a bit of a wrench, because you make such strong connections in the armed forces. People, often we talk about the fact that we have to trust one another with our lives. One of the really important parts of military service is that you're entitled to trust people you've never met with your life, simply by dint of the fact that we all wear the same uniform, we recognise one another as effectively brothers and sisters. So it's a very empowering thing to be part of that. When you come away from it, particularly if you come away from it unexpectedly, you lose a part of yourself sometimes. So we see people who leave the service, particularly through injury. They hadn't planned to leave the service, and they lose something really important. So sometimes joining a common community replicates some of the things that they found a great comfort and motivation and satisfaction when they were still in the service.
And I also think it's quite amazing that being here at Hougoumont Farm, it's such an important site for you as a Coldstreamer, and your regiment kind of recruits from particular areas. So the people who would have been fighting here 200 years ago may well have lived on the same streets or even visited the same kind of establishments as ones today.
That's a very good point. We certainly, the Coldstream Guards, I mean, like, as with many regiments, as you say, recruits from strictly geographical areas in the United Kingdom. So in our case, we recruit from parts of the southwest, parts of sort of Midlands, Leicestershire, that sort of area, and then up into the northeast. And there are historical reasons for that, and we've sort of divvied amongst the Brigade of Guards country. But beyond that, we also have a large footprint from soldiers from across the Commonwealth. When I was a company commander, I had, I think, 14 different nationalities in my company. And the wonderful thing about the shared identity and heritage of a regiment, of the army, is that we all have a stake in this. So I have been able to come here with, one of my soldiers I remember coming here from Gambia. And my ancestors didn't fight here, nor did his. But this place is every bit as important to both of us, because this is part of the shared story of this organisation to which we belong. And I think that is one of the strengths of the regimental system. And as you say, that descendant heritage is also quite important. I certainly know soldiers from the Coldstream, both officers and soldiers, who can trace their lineage in the regiment back several generations, and in some cases are still wearing bits and pieces of the uniform that their ancestor wore, so whether it be belt buckles or capstars or so on. So both sides are tremendously important. But of course, we are not entirely our past. We can't live in the past. The regiment is only as good as the present day. You're only as good as the next battle. And so we have to look forwards. We use the past as a source of inspiration, a source of shared belonging, but actually it's all about the future and our place in the world. And of course that's terribly important too. So one of the things we hope to do through this place is to inspire soldiers, to remind them of the things that we are here to do collectively, but to look forwards as well to the future challenges that the army will face.
And of course, we're only as good as our next excavation, and I think this year has been absolutely fantastic. And I hope you've enjoyed looking around. It's been brief, but you can join me for some questions if you like. And it's been wonderful. I shall see you later.
Thank you, Fonzie.
I should probably put some suntan cream on. It's hot, isn't it?
O'er the hills and o'er the main, through Flanders, Portugal and Spain, King George commands and we obey. Over the hills and far away.
Help us explore the Waterloo battlefield and make even more discoveries. Go to www.waterloouncovered.com/donate in order to support.